1分钟准备。
1 minute countdown.
1分钟准备。
So like you mentioned, some of the power lines will be retreated from that umbilical tower. 50 seconds, like we heard.
To the vehicle itself.
So right now, all powers
40秒。
are in the Long March 2F carrier rocket
itself. And you can
see the robotic arms retreating.
30秒。
30 seconds.
And all connections are cut off.
20秒。
20 seconds. The rocket is now on its own, about to take its first step into space.
10、9、
10,
8、
9,
7、
8, 7,
5、4、3、2、1，点火。
428毫秒，70 20 04分12秒，428毫秒，酒泉程序转弯，东风程序转弯。
Pitch over.
Yes, it's now 20 seconds after the launch.
酒泉光学
It is a pitch over to fly along Earth
东
horizon.
风飞行正常，金山 USB 雷达跟踪正常，遥测信号正常。 双城光学雷达跟踪正常，东风光学 USB 雷达跟踪正常，遥测信号正常。
The signals from the optical radar.
It's normal. And the telemetry data shows normal. This is a camera from the vehicle itself. You can see the two boosters.
The 4 boosters that will be separated from the main body of that rocket in about 155 seconds.
Yes, the first separation will be that of the boosters.
Looking from the trajectory of that rocket, Professor Yang, looking from the trajectory of that rocket, what can you tell us?
Well, from this video, it is very normal. And the first critical point is the separation of the 4 liquid rocket boosters. You can see that maybe from this camera, from the view from the launch vehicle itself. And it is different from the launch of Shenzhou spaceship. The first one will be the jettison of the emergency escape tower. Then the second step will be the separation of the boosters. So that's the difference.
So if we're launching a manned mission, the separation of the escape tower will mean that everything is normal.
USB 雷达跟踪正常，遥测信号
Now the
正常。
separation is near.
东风飞行正常。双城光学雷达跟踪正常。
Everything is normal so far. All right, we're seeing the boosters separate.
Successfully separated. Great.
Successfully separated from.
Clean launch.
东风助推器
You
分离。
can see the 4 small light points are the 4 boosters being jettisoned.
东风1、2级分离。
155 second.
And the first stage is separated successfully. Great.
That means we are now 160 seconds into
226发现目标。
the launch.
Yes, the first 2 steps, the boosters and the first stage works very normally. Now is the role of the second stage.
遥测信号
Now it is
正
the
常。
second stage rocket
东风飞
engines
行正
start.
常。
You can see the video, the camera from the inner side of the second stage, and we can see the normal condition of the rockets. We have 1 main engine of the second stage. Oh, this is a video from the payload fairing inside it. And the next critical step will be the separation or jettison of the payload fairing, because the altitude is already very high and it do not need any protections.
2507东风抛整流罩。
The nose cone used to protect the spacecraft from against pressure and aerodynamic heating during launch through an atmosphere.
青山 USB 跟踪正常， 遥测信号正常。
Oh, the tracking is normal.
There's always something exciting about seeing an image like this after launch of that distant vehicle bursting into space, bursting out of the atmosphere. All we can see is this pinpoint of light on our screen,
a pixel
right?
of light.
But we know what's happening up there.
We can see clear images because we have cameras on board the launch vehicle.
And also the Beijing Aerospace Command and Control Center has all the data.
Absolutely. And you see that's the flame of the second stage rocket. It has one main engine and 4 vernier engines. The vernier engines are very small to control its attitude. And the report from the front tell us that the telemetry data is normal and the status is normal.
Now this image is coming out from the Beijing Aerospace Command and Control Center.
This is a 3D
this is
simulation,
Yes, this is
but it
simulation.
represents the current status of the launch vehicle.
So this whole process will take about 580 seconds. That's less
Nearly
than
10 minutes.
Yeah, less than 10 minutes time.
And the second stage, it has less thrust than the first stage, but it works much longer than the first stage. And you see from the camera that the burning is very normal.
青山 USB 跟踪正常，
So
遥
how
测
many
信号
monitoring
正常。
stations are
Many. You have listened from the report that we have monitoring stations in Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center and also in Weinan in Shanxi Province, and also we have that in Qingdao and Taiyuan in these cities. So they all report. They all have report and they all receive the telemetry data.
so it's like a
东
triangular
风、光学、USB、
positioning of
雷达
that.
跟踪正
Exactly.
常，遥测信号正常。
And they can be recognized as backup of each other, so we can ensure to receive the data normally.
渭南 USB。
What about the boosters and the first stage rockets? Will they be burned out during?
It will be dropped to the mainland of China, but in area which is not heavily populated, so it is not dangerous.
We often concern about, for instance, well, these boosters and first stage engine will partly burn out during the falling period in the atmosphere, and sometimes we even fear about space garbage that are scattered around the space. But luckily, this is not yet into orbit. It's not beyond orbit space trash. So
青岛 USB 双补完成。
Qingdao station have captured the signals of the vehicle. It is a report.
青山 USB 跟踪正常，遥测信号正常。
So we are now seeing 7 minutes into the launch.
青岛
3 minutes to go
雷达
until we can tell whether the Tiangong 2 Space Lab has entered its pre-programmed orbit or not.
And the next critical step will be the shutdown of the main engine. And after that, the 4 vernier engines will continue to work to adjust the orbit very accurately.
酒泉二级主机关机。
Oh, the
东
main
风
engine
二
is
级
shut
主机
off.
关机。
Great.
What does this main
二级主
engine
机
shut
关
off
机
mean?。
It means that it already provided enough energy for the spacecraft to its final orbit, but maybe not very accurate enough. So the 4 small vernier engines will work continually. Look, you can see the flames. So with this adjustment, the final orbit will be very accurate.
So we will adjust the position as well as trajectory.
Yes, and you can see that it is near the
青
eastern
岛
coast of China.
USB 雷达跟踪正常，遥测信号
This time the
正
orbit
常。
is higher than before, and it is seen as a
东风
normal
USB
orbit height,
跟踪正常。
orbit altitude for
Yes,
a future
because-
space station.
And this because yes, as you mentioned, because we will test the technical status near the similar to that of the future space station. It will higher than the former missions. Now this is a camera from the to the front of the carrier vehicle, carrier rocket, and you can see the Tiangong Space Laboratory from this camera.
So
And
less than 1 minute to go before we can tell whether the Tiangong 2 space lab will enter its orbit or not. And from the audio that we're hearing from various supervision stations around the country, everything is normal so far.
Yes. And from this camera, we can see the separation of the payload. Oh, the space tracking ships have found the Tiangong.
青岛 USB 雷达跟踪正常，遥测信号正常。
From the simulation image that we've just seen on the left-hand side of the screen.
Oh, great! The separation.
This is a separation.
东风2级游击关机，
We can hear the pauses from both the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center
So
and the
the,
Beijing Aerospace Command and Control
Yes.
Center. What does that applause mean?
the separation means that the task of the carrier vehicle has been accomplished. That is great. And the next critical step will be the extension of the solar panels. If it can be unfolded normally, the electric power supply will be ensured for the space vehicle.
So the launch vehicle of the Long March 2F carrier rocket has fully
长江5号跟踪
completed.
开始。
Yes.
Now the Tiangong 2 is on its own. Can I say that?
Yes.
It'll
absolutely.
rely on its solar panels and its battery on board to power its movement.
This is a simulation which represents the stage. It is a ground track of the Tiangong 2 laboratory. Now you can see it is in the coverage of Qingdao and the tracking ship Yuanwang 5.
This is now off the coast of China's east
Coast.
I think we are about to know whether this first stage of this mission is successful or not.
Absolutely, the launch itself is successful. Just next we should confirm that the space lab itself is
长
normal
江
or
5号
not.
跟踪正常，遥测信号正常。
Everything is normal so far.
长江5号跟踪正常，
The tracking
遥测数
signal
据正
is
常
normal.，
北京飞行正常。
So, Mr. Johnson, looking at this whole process so far, what's your major takeaway from this?
Well, I've been watching space launches, rocket launches for a
Yeah,
long time.
certainly.
I remember
北京
Glenn,
300展
John
开，指令愿意
Glenn's
发出。
program. I remember the Apollo program and so on, watching that as a boy. Now,
The solar panel has been successfully
Unfolded.
unfolded and stretched out. This is a simulation image at the Beijing Aerospace Command and Control Center showing that the solar panels has been successfully unfolded. Go on, Mr. Johnson.
so I guess my point is that the excitement that this kind of a project generates among a younger generation that's interested in what's out there, what the space program can provide in the way of new ways of looking at things, new information, new scientific experimentation, and so on. That kind of interest is, I suppose, right now being generated around China among young Chinese students in the same way that it's been generating interest around the world for decades in other countries.
Looking at this launch now, Mr. Johnson, are you seeing it with an excitement or some kind of a critical thinking?
Well, like I said, I like to think about it in terms of its value to the younger generation. Now we know that there's a group of Hong Kong students who have entered a design experimentation contest, and their experiments will be performed on Tiangong 2. They're all watching this very carefully, and it's exciting to think about what these students are experiencing now as they watch their space lab take off and go into orbit. So every space launch, no matter where it is, no matter who's watching, what country is sponsoring it or whatever, I think is a valuable contribution to education, to the science community, and very valuable for young people who are looking ahead, looking to the future, and are interested in not only space but science in general.
This is certainly an inspiration for children here in China and as well as all over the world. Such kind of missions is always an inspiration not only to children but also to the general public.
Absolutely.
Sure. If you think of one of the scientific experiments that's going to be on this Tiangong 2, the gamma ray burst experiment involving an instrument called POLAR, P-O-L-A-R. That instrument, designed by Swiss, Polish, and Chinese scientists, is going to look at these distant and tremendous explosions that perhaps will help us understand more about the creation of the universe, the Big Bang. These gamma ray bursts are not well understood. And so whether you believe in a creator, a Jehovah, a Nuwa, whatever, or you don't believe in a creator, it's still an exciting thing to think about what the scientists will be able to detect from these distant bursts of energy, these tremendous rapid bursts called gamma ray bursts. So although I'm no expert in gamma ray bursts, I imagine that the physicists who are interested in this are now watching this carefully, and will be watching Tiangong 2's experimentation and the results that come of it. And then you can think about what the physicists of the future, the high schoolers who are interested in physics, are thinking about, and how they may be able to not only dream about how the universe was formed, but also about how they can use that information to in their endeavors to advance science, to advance commercial application of science, and so on.
It is always a debate between whether we should spend the money on space programs or we should spend the money on alleviating poverty, for instance. Professor Yang, what's your defense?
Well, yes, I also heard these kind of debates, and many people think that it is not necessary to pay the money in space programs and should do more things for the common lives. But I should say that the common life is closely connected to the space technology, and without space technology, common life cannot be so good at the present stage. And because the return rate of space investment is very high, as Ms. Ping has already announced yesterday, the return rate of the China space program is 10 or 12 to 1. That means if we invest 1 yuan in China Manned Space Program, we will have a totally return in our society about 10 to 12 yuan. So you can see with these returns, we will be more confident to solve the problems in our society. So I think it is a good choice. It is a good. It is the right decision to pay more attention to these kind of space programs and do more things in these kind of technologies.
At the left-hand side of the screen, we're seeing the command center at Beijing Aerospace Command and Control Center. People there are carefully monitoring data coming out from various observation stations that are scattered around the country to monitor the position as well as trajectory of that Tiangong 2 space lab.
各位号注意，我是北京。根据北京实时轨道监视判断，天宫2号已进入近地点高度200公里，远地点高度347公里，倾角42.8度，
Now, according to the data received from the Beijing Aerospace Command and Control Center, right now have already into the pre-programmed orbit, and all the data and already sent out to all the related observation set, and everything follow the planned way.
东风，
东风明白。
华山，
华山明白。
江阴，
江阴明白。
东风、华山、江阴、天路。
明白。
长江5号。
The Tiangong 5.
收到。
Tiangong 5 received the data.
曙光明白。
And ordered.
银河。
曙光。
银河明白。
天宫。
And 银河。
天宫明白。
And 天宫。
天宫报告入轨后状态正常。
Tiangong reported the orbit injection is normal.
So those names that we've just heard are observation stations, right?
No, some of them are the subsystems of the whole mission. For instance, Tiangong means space laboratory system. The team will monitor all the telemetry data and to judge whether it is normal or not.
Hang on, let's listen in.
下面，请中央军委委员、任务总
Now
指
let's
挥部
welcome
总指挥长。
The General Commander
装备发展部张又侠部长
and
宣布发
the
射结
Minister
果。
of Zhang Youxia from China Military Commission to declare the launch result.
各位领导、同志们，
Dear officers,
根据北京航天指挥中
commanders,
心报告，
according to the report from Beijing Aerospace Command
火
and
箭
Control Center,
飞行正常，
the Tiangong
天宫
2
2号准确入轨，
operates normally and
太阳帆
the
板
orbit
展开正
injection
常。
fulfill the requirement,
现在
and the solar panel
宣布
also stretched out.
天
Now
宫
I would
2
like to
号空间
declare
实验室
the launch
发射
mission
任
of
务
Tiangong 2 Space
取
Lab
得圆满
has
成功。
achieved a complete success.